All right, we're about to get started in another men's doubles quarterfinals. NYU versus Lindenwood. NYU at the top of the screen in the bluish purple. Lindenwood in black with the serve.
And there you saw it, what we were talking about earlier, just the ability to control the point and have great placement by Leibovitz.
Unfortunately, the control's been a little bit sloppy. The first received better than the second, but you can see Morita and Legaria both coming out looking for the opportunity to play aggressive, put NYU on defense as early as possible.
And that's not what we saw from them earlier when they were competing. They played the control game, started off the points very short with the push, opened up with some soft top, and they were able to take out the pairing of Cretu and Pong of Texas Wesleyan.
Beautiful touch shot from Leibovitz from down low on the forehand side. But most impressive to me right now is Legaria and both players from Lindenwood. They've hesitated on their receives, realizing that their just half-long serves might not come off, and are still able to touch it softly from the baseline of the table.
Yeah, they have great control and touch and finesse. They played pretty much that entire fourth round game match that way against the Wesleyan pairing and did not stray away from it too often, very rarely wanting to get into an off-the-table rally or exchange with those players.
Leibovitz is very clever. We've seen the shots several times out here. They just haven't been very effective in shutting down the attacking game of Lindenwood.
And I think the Lindenwood players are noticing they're going to be able to get a few more offensive shots that they would not have seen against that last match.
Recovery off the top of the net. Morita from deep on the table, kicking the ball. See it jumping into the body, taking away the attack of NYU. A little bit more aggressive receive, and I think that's the right idea, even though it went out. Tahl's going to have to do something to keep the pace up and shut down the third ball attack of Lindenwood. It's one way to do it, intimidation factor.
Yeah, very rarely do you see this Lindenwood team give away points on serves. They just, once again, they have, great control over the ball.
And we have to remember, watching at home, you see someone serve into the net, you think, oh, well, I could have done that. But the pressure for them to keep the serve so low to the net, as that one was, and most of these serves are, is just huge pressure. Service warning against Leibovitz.
We've seen what happens when the players get this ball high and long. It can end ugly for them.
We haven't seen a lot of the Landers forehand loop. He's been dealing with some very difficult receives. The first time we've seen, or at least that I recall, a big spinning shot from Landers. And he's a two-winged looper both sides. Very effective loops.
And there it is, open court punch shot by Tahl Leibovitz. And you were saying Landers not being able to incorporate the forehand. He is probably, out of the four on the court right now, he's the biggest off both sides. And we all know that once he gets his shots in, that's his game. But these players aren't set up for that. They're going to play on the table, very controlled. So it's almost like he's going to have to force the issue with those forehands and backhands.
That's right. Lead service. And Landers could be considered the sleeping giant. I mean, out here, as you said, he's the most powerful, but a little bit rusty. Some players, sort of like the Feng Jia situation, you reach a certain level of play working hard every day, and then when you take some time off and change your regimen, lose some of the touch and the skill shots. So Landers has looked pretty uncomfortable moving around, playing the counter game. It's 11-5 for the Lindenwood pair over NYU in the first.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in with us, we're here. That game went by pretty quickly for the pairings out there on the table. They weren't able to really establish a whole lot of attack. It was a lot of short underspin push and open court flips and just playing a really great game. I imagine that's probably the next step for the team from NYU, is they're going to want to get the ball up a little bit more and get Landers in this match.
And I think that's going to have to come from the receives of Leibovitz either being shorter or faster, one of the two, because if they're half long, even if they're a little bit clever at a certain level of play, the opponent has enough time to see the ball and doesn't have the table in the way as an obstacle, they're going to make their shot. Both Morita and Legaria have shown us outstanding versatility. And one of the beauties of college table tennis is, while we have people that we've known watch play in the U.S. for a long time, a lot of new players come in from overseas or on scholarship or just studying here that are, mysteries to us a little bit. We still have less knowledge about. Big ripping backhand from Landers. That's one of his two wings, and when he's in near the table and gets the shot, good setup from Leibovitz.
Yeah, and that's a great point you made earlier about a lot of the new faces that we're seeing here. Great job by Coach Chance Key of Lindenwood University to recruit new talent. Obviously, a lot of players, they leave, they graduate for whatever reason, and you've got to be able to sustain that level of depth in your program.
It's a difficult shot. Even if Tahl Leibovitz makes that shot, it's pretty high, and he's way out of position.
There, it looks like Tahl just took a little bit of a delayed step to that flip. Played it real casual, but he has a tendency to make things look real casual.
And the body language right now from Leibovitz. Psychology, sports psychology, very important. You don't want to see someone being too in their head about the previous points. Learning from it and moving forward, most important thing. Some leftover side spin there from the early spin on the serve from Leibovitz.
That's cute, leftover. That was enough for all of us.
Is that a food joke? Nice, yeah. If you got it, bring it up for the whole class, share, I like it. Lunch was delicious, by the way, thanks to whoever's sponsoring lunch. Break off the edge of the table, but still good block deep on the table. It's the right thing, the right mindset for Leibovitz.
What we call the experience bounce, not a lucky bounce.
Experience, I like it. Quick decision, a change of heart from Landers as he realizes the ball's coming off the table. It's the high-level play we've seen for years. It's had some of the best points in modern history in U.S. table tennis against Lupulescu and some of those guys.
Well, he's played a lot of great players at an early age. Being a young college player, he's as they would say, he's been around the block for a while, but he's still, we have to think a lot of these guys are still, 20, 21, 22, and they've been playing players that are in their 30s and 40s with a lot of experience.
Right. And that's another thing a lot of people don't consider, the placement of a serve. In tennis, you watch someone serve it right to the corner of the box, right on the line. In doubles and table tennis, even though you're limited to half the table, there's still so many different places in that rectangle you can hit it. And Landers showed that before with the serve that was right near the middle line of the table, completely jarring his opponent.
NYU in this second game here, 7-4. They're down 1-0. And that's a great move there. It wasn't overly aggressive, but well placed by Leibovitz.
Absolutely right. Landers able to get in an aggressive spin shot, and Leibovitz doing a great job of staying close to the table. While he's got the touch to be far from the table, it's not going to be strong enough against Lindenwood in a doubles match.
And instead of taking that ball over the table, it was high enough, he chose to place it with heavy underspin deep and caught Morita off guard.
Definitely. Quick, subtle shot, easy recovery time on it. And Landers looked a little jammed there on the backhand. Well-placed shot from Lindenwood coming deep on the table, a little bit rushed.
We've seen a lot of that from the Lindenwood pairing. They're able to do great things on return of serve, catching the players out of position or jamming them into the body.
That was a great high five right there. Before picking up the ball, the synergy and the positivity from these players. Heavy underspin half long. Landers was quick to get there, but underestimated the spin. Came in with a fairly open face of the racket, but not open enough.
Appears he was trying to jump on that ball and put it in the corner very quickly.
Right. Whew. Never a good time for a net serve. They had a 4-point lead, if I'm not mistaken, and now just a 1-point lead.
And a rare mistake from Legaria of Lindenwood to see him push a return long.
Fair play award, a little bit of humor from the umpire, admits Happens to everybody. I'm not the only person who makes mistakes, I think.
Yeah, glad to see that the players take that in good humor.
But also a great display of honesty and fair play out here from the Lindenwood pair. The first to acknowledge the score differential, but it's 11-8 for Tahl Leibovitz and Michael Landers of NYU in Game 2.
Yeah, and what I noticed there in that game, Adam, that definitely Michael Landers got himself more established in this match and playing a lot more forehands aggressive, staying on the table on a lot of those backhands to the open court. And with the control of Leibovitz and the offensive Landers, that's going to be a little bit of a different game than what this pairing from Lindenwood saw last time. They saw a lot of experience in a controlled game from Texas Wesleyan teams, Crotu and Plog, but this team has a lot of experience on their side as well, the pairing of Landers and Leibovitz. And I imagine that it's going to be just as much of a fight for them going into these final games.
You know, what you said earlier about Leibovitz changing his play, I mean, both it's always a psychological battle in table tennis, and especially when Tahl Leibovitz is playing. When you have a skill set so versatile, and you're used to being able to put on a show and, you know, playing at the level Tahl's played at, the Paralympics and whatnot, world-class play, he really knows what it's like to have to force himself out of his comfort zone and stay close. And much better right there, even with the start flip over the table from the forehand side to immediately put Lindenwood in the defensive. That's how he's going to use his teammate best as well. 2 in a row.
A little bit more aggressive, not as casual that last game. I see him stepping into the table much faster than he did in Game 2.
He's more effective, and he's making Mike Landers more effective with that as well. Ripping backhand right to the middle. Smart placement. We've seen a lot of wide shots, but Tahl Leibovitz showing that he can pick the elbow out as well.
Shot that he did not play in the first 2 games.
Left-handed hook shot from down below the table. Didn't even see him switch. It looked like he was just born left-handed, and that's, some might argue, poor choice as far as what to play out there.
Well, I think at that point he was just trying to put himself on a better play on the ball. If he would have left it in the right hand, he would have had to play a weaker backhand shot.
Maybe higher consistency, definitely weaker, and I think from a positioning standpoint, he's going to jam up his teammate in the backhand court if he does play that right-handed. But, you know, if anyone's going to switch hands, I think there probably isn't another player in this playing hall right now who's got a better two-hand combination right and left than Tahl Leibovitz.
So, with that said, I mean, we're looking at NYU. Maybe they do have a little bit of the righty-lefty ability that we've seen earlier.
Yes. Reorientation. And that sounded like Tahl giving a little self-coaching out there. Move your legs. Footwork definitely super important in doubles.
Beautiful touch there from Leibovitz. Kept that ball extremely short and right down the line. And again, the placement of Leibovitz, not doing too much with it, but just jamming up his opponent. And that's 2 great service returns from the NYU team. And they're up 6-4 here in Game 3.
You know, Tahl Leibovitz used that service receive the first 2 points this game, and then showed he could play short as well before that one.
And Landers easily trying to do a little bit too much with that forehand. He was his body was leaning to his left, a little bit out of position on it, but still forcing himself to hit the shot.
Yep, definitely a foot issue there.
And that's exactly where the Lindenwood team has had success in the past. When they get into the touch game, that's when their strengths start to come into play.
We saw Leibovitz misleading with the shoulders there, trying to play the short side of the table. High risk shot, he can definitely do it, but now it's tied up at 6 even. That's a little bit lackluster, more of a slapping shot, not a cover, not a block, sort of a flat hitting. It's a mental thing right now. Leibovitz gonna have to make better shot selection. There it is, a spinnier, a little bit higher percentage shot. Sort of the opposite of the shot that ended the point before.
Yeah, the Legaria didn't cover that ball as fast.
And that looked like it was a bit of a jam and uncomfortable shot with the placement of the teammate there for Landers. Leibovitz made a great shot to set up Landers, but well placed deep into the backhand court from Lindenwood. Inside out backhand over the table. A little bit of side spin on that from Leibovitz, adding to the trouble.
Yeah, I think that's a smart play from Leibovitz to be able to take that ball and put some spin on it.
And this time a heavy long push, a bit more pace on it. Again, he can do it short, and if he's going to go long, he keeps it deep on the table and fast. Smart play. This is the smartest and most versatile play from Leibovitz we've seen, and in the second half of this game, I think it's been a huge factor in NYU's 2-game points right now. Again, Landers, the big player on the court, but Leibovitz really the MVP rather, of this game.
And another miss there from the Lindenwood playing. A shot that Legaria has made all day. Just a nice open court push, and he pushes it just a little long. And this team, who had a great match earlier in the round of 16, finds himself now down 2-1 against the Lindenwood team. Lindenwood obviously has a lot of momentum on that side, as once Leibovitz has gotten into the offensive side of the game. We know Landers has it. Now that makes it that much more difficult for the Lindenwood playing to defend when they only had to worry about one player being offensive. Now they've got two hitting the ball at various angles and speeds, and good placement from both players. We're going to see how this new team from Lindenwood makes the adjustment. We all know that this is their first year competing in NCTTA championships. They have a lot of international experience in Brazil and from Mexico, but this is the first time on the collegiate stage against some great talent here. Let's see how they come out of this game break here.
Coaches in the corners. We've got for NYU, Mitch Seidenfeld, one of the strongest little people players in the world, I believe. Just an outstanding player. Smaller than Tahl, and definitely a threat at the national level for anybody to play. And we saw some confidence from the NYU team, some laughing. It might be easy to get a little bit too comfortable with your lead and lose the intensity that keeps giving you that competitive edge sometimes, you know?
It looks like a service fault. Maybe Lindenwood wasn't ready.
That's a serve we've seen from Tahl Leibovitz. It's been very effective. You know, short topspin from the backhand side, keeping it low. The righty-righty combination, serving from the backhand, allows more room for the third ball attack on the forehand. Look at these touch shots.
And
the left hand again.
Pickups. I tell you, everyone on that table was picking the ball up from their shoelaces. It was amazing.
But again, Tahl Leibovitz switching to that left hand. That was definitely the point of the match so far. Some entertainment all around.
And there you have Lindenwood now being a little bit more aggressive than usual. Both players playing on top of the table.
A late call on the lead service. I think none of the four players on the court saw it. You know, it's interesting. I was going to say on break, the last two games has been 11-8 for NYU. So that means NYU has shown that in both combinations, receiving from both players, they can comfortably win.
And that's just too big from Legaria. He takes that forehand out wide. And even with Tahl Leibowitz's great movement around this table, just too much for him to get to.
Right, and Tahl, as well as he does move, he's going to have the toughest time with footwork of anybody on the court. Is the least mobile, I think, of the four players on the court to really cover the deep off the table shots. So Landers, you know, fishing it back on the table can be a pretty effective shot, but he's pretty much going to have to counter loop everything he can once they get off the table.
And another aggressive over-the-table forehand lift from Leibovitz puts his team in a great position. Great counter by the Lindenwood team, but NYU is just too strong in that point.
That's a break. I mean, he got the ball right off the bounce, but left it pretty high for Morita to put it away.
Yeah, that was a true gift that he just did not unwrap. Oh.
This time the change of the service from Leibovitz. It's the backhand topspin again, but a little deeper on the table, a little faster. We got a timeout called. Gabriel Skolnick, the coach, in the corner for the Lindenwood pair. Gabriel Skolnick, quite a player himself, counter looping from off the table, has been making his appearance here at the Nationals. Saw him play last year, some outstanding matches. Right now, what do you think he's talking to his team about, Joe?
Well, you know, the one thing is that he wants to make sure that the guys aren't rushing, I'm imagining, because they played a very controlled game, and we saw them as we got into game 2 and 3, they started to play a little bit more offensive. They want to make sure that once they get into those rallies that they aren't out of position. A lot of times, a lot of these players, they get in these rallies, and footwork being so key and critical, they find themselves too close to their teammate and not able to execute a proper shot. So they don't want to get too far away from what's been working for them, which is the controlled touch play on the table, but just realizing that they're going to have to take some shots.
Sounds pretty spot on to me. And now back from the timeout, Leibovitz has the serve, down 4-5. And even though there's a break off the top of the net, Landers, when he's in his best shape, we see make that shot time after time. A little bit more unpredictable out here.
Yeah, once again, it just looks like Landers was forcing that forehand.
And I think that's partially the difference between a player who's regularly in practice and someone who's experiencing college and playing when he can.
A lot of spin on that serve. Landers pushes it just long. Lindenwood leaves 7-5 here in this fourth game, trying to stay in this match and even it up.
Leibovitz showed us earlier in the match that when the ball comes long, he can be very effective on his spin shots from the forehand side as well. Right down the line, playing the short side of the table like it was nothing, and Leibovitz is making it a one-point game. We got some cheering in Portuguese here for Morita, our player from Brazil.
And that was a great serve. Kept it low, but real spinny by Landers. And Legaria almost felt like he had no choice but to loop it, but we know that's not his first choice. And again, the team from Lindenwood just pressured on the forehands, taking it long, just off the net.
Credit to Leibovitz for the touch shot, just barely coming off the back edge of the table down the middle. Morita calling for his serve. If they can stay in the point that long, just a few shots into the rally, get back a big Landers loop, keep the first Leibovitz shot on the table, and get Leibovitz back off, it's going to be very difficult for NYU to win those long rallies.
Yeah, especially with that much movement on the ball. I mean, they're hitting a lot of heavy side spins.
And that time the heavy side spin was on the serve from Leibovitz. Tough for Morita to control off the net and out. Again, this is a best-of-5 match, so Landers and Leibovitz up 2-1 or 2 points away from moving on to the men's doubles semifinals. Fast, long serve opens up the opportunity for Landers' backhand. Like you said earlier, it looks a little bit forced. It's the right shot to take, but Landers, you know, under a little bit of pressure to perform at a very high level, despite maybe not having the training that he's used to.
And especially when, you know, you've played at such a level and there's some shots that you know you can execute, you just feel like, you know, hey, I need to go for my shot. He knows it's the right shot, but once again, like you said, he's out of practice, so it does seem a little forced. Look at this touch.
That is insane. Leibovitz with the chop from down below the table and the return. I couldn't believe that Lindenwood could keep it solo on the table. A net break, but Landers recovers that for 2 bounces, and it's match point for NYU.
And there it is, Lindenwood staying in this. They're the aggressors, playing their game and then taking their shots when they needed it. It looked like NYU was a little bit back on their heels, and now it's deuce. 10-10 here in this fourth game. And that's the Lindenwood game. It's a counterattack game opening up. Now they're leading with a chance to take this to 5. Leibovitz down a little down on himself.
He made it before, that same chop shot from the forehand side off the table, but once again, Lindenwood getting them off the table, getting NYU back and out of the point. That's what they need to do. A little bit too long and too high. Gave Leibovitz a nice look at that forehand to play the short side of the table, and we're back at our second deuce point this game.
And this is exactly what we've been waiting to see all day. The energy, the excitement, the drama in these finals. I mean, excuse me, we're just in semifinals.
Not even quarters, right?
Great matches. Yeah, quarters. Semifinals up next.
And now it's a match point again for Landers and Leibovitz.
This is for a place in the next semifinals. We have another Mississippi College Texas Wesleyan showdown in semifinal number 1.
But the timeout's called for NYU. Landers and Leibovitz heading over to Seidenfeld. Mitch Seidenfeld, full of smiles and positivity, sends back the team. That means Lindenwood's going to have to get back right away. The beauty of the timeout, you can call it for 1 second, get the other team walking away from the table, and then have them pull a U-turn right away to come back. Can be quite jarring, especially when they're facing a match point against them.
Well, that's a sign, too, that the NYU pairing is just really comfortable and confident right now. They're trying to keep it light as they go to the bench, and they're right back at it. They know that they're doing all that they can. They're playing the right shots, and the momentum's on their side.
We'll see if the timeout helped for NYU. And it does. They take it 13-11, 3-1 over Felipe Morita and Alex Legaria of Lindenwood University. And NYU will be moving on to the men's doubles semifinals.